this monumental thing in my life was losing my son, right? I mean, just enormous thing was happening. And it was not an enormous thing to my family. When my family basically had written me off 15 years earlier, it was not a big deal at all. It was easy for them to do. And the reason was because they were choosing between, getting rid of me and my sons, defending, staying, taking my side of being protective of this daughter who they believed was not going along with the story anymore. Was not going along with the narrative. And the narrative being that we're this happy family that doesn't ever have any problems because I'm going to a therapist, I've got depression, so which to them is an obstacle to them believing their false reality. And they hate me for it. About my depression is that it is my fault, that it is a thing that shouldn't be happening. They don't like it and they want it to go away, and the fact that it is happening, smearing me and ruining my life and destroying me. And they didn't have any qualms about it. They didn't have any feelings about it, as though I was their daughter. What I care most about is remaining blameless. In order to remain blameless as an adult in your own life, blameless for everything in your life, you have to basically give up responsibility and act helpless. Just such a weekend place to come from. Everything that they're proud of that feels right, they take their full credit for that. But anything that's wrong in their life was someone else's fault. Again, one of the reasons why narcissists are so successful in what they do is that most people don't know what they're looking at. And so a lot of the reason why a lot of us are on these channels and talking about this stuff is to raise awareness. Getting a public awareness about what this is really important so that it's not such a mystery when we're looking right at it. And so not only did you become a person who's less likely to be victimized in the future, and therefore so are your children, you can really help your children. And don't let any of this pain go to waste. Once I was able to really move away from the idea that these were my parents, that this is my family, and that I owed them anything more, that there was something more I could do for them. There isn't anything more I can do for them, and they don't want anything more from me. This is the thing too that I really realized. They want me just to leave them alone with their fantasy now about what happened here. I've had the narcissistic abuse from the word go in my life, and it carried all the way through all of my life to where I married someone, had children with him, my son died, and then even had an experience just last week of still, because I'm anywhere in the proximity of these people and my remaining son is still affected by them, I'm still being narcissistically abused by these same people. So I have remedied the narcissism in my current life, but to have the extreme amount of loss and the different kinds of relationships that ran throughout life, to have it affect basically every single person that I have ever known and loved up until my current new husband is pretty extraordinary. And the amount that I've lost, the amount that I had a near-death experience, that my son has died, just all these incredible things. That once I saw it as an extraordinary wealth of lessons, and then also I saw that if I could do that, and I could stand here and say, okay, it's possible to have all that happen and to still be hopeful and to still be able to love. I still have an open heart for love. I love my son unconditionally. I love him so much. I love my husband, and I still I jumped into loving my husband with a whole open heart. I'm still nothing like the people that harmed me. What I realize is that every single thing that happened made me more me and less like them. So all this stuff that would happen, all these different incredible things, I am more compassionate now than I was. I'm more compassionate now than I was before my heart attack, than I was before my husband left me, than I was before all the struggles and the strains, and that I was before I lost my son. And I thought that I had an answer that made sense and that we were heading that direction, so to lose my son wasn't part of that package. and it revived my anger. But I've always sensed anger has always been a real catalyst for action for me, and I think I got a clear message from my inner self, possibly from my son, from God, who knows what, and I saw this all completely differently. I saw it as the way that I saw things when I died, when I had my near-death experience. All of a sudden, wisdom just rushed in, and I knew all these things that I didn't know. All these things that I wondered about, all of a sudden I knew them all. I knew all the answers. Even Alexander, that neurosurgeon, when he talked about his near-death experience, and he said that it was like you go and immediately you have all this knowledge. It's just all this stuff is, you just know it all. And then when you go back, it's like a chimpanzee got to be human for a day, and then had to go back to being a chimpanzee. And it was like trying to communicate to his fellow chimpanzees what he'd seen in that day was, almost impossible. And that's really very much the same with how it is for me. So how it's been for me after the near-death experience, and even I couldn't see things the way that I saw them then. But this was different. This, all of a sudden, seemed like I could see it the way that I would see it when I died. It really sort of helped me let go of my earth family. All that this is now is a place for wisdom and growth and healing for me to pass forward and have the confidence to love again, and the confidence to know that none of that is personal. None of that is personal. To be able to make it possible for anyone to feel hopeful, to feel less alone, to go, well, there is at least somebody who's experienced a loss in that area and also still went on to be happy. That you could lose that much. You could have that much betrayal. You could have that much proof and evidence of your unlovability and still know that you are fine, that you're totally lovable, that you are loved. What motivated me was this idea that this community of people would appreciate me, would see me in a certain way, that I would be valued and valuable, and that I would be worthy, worthwhile, that they would, that I would be loved. It wasn't a rejection of me, because I'm nowhere in this scenario. The person they're rejecting is the one they had to create. The person that they're not remembering, because it would be too unbearable to. The person that they've lost, the loyal, devoted, really truly unconditionally loving daughter and wife and friend, the person that would have done anything for them, and would have been there for them no matter what, thick or thin, you name it. Really, really would have been. And they don't know that they didn't lose that person. That's not who they lost. They lost a person who was disloyal, unloving, selfish, self-centered, trying to hurt them, not trustworthy, not worthwhile. That's who they rejected. And so, I was never that person. Those are the lessons. That's what really matters here. For all that's said and done, these are the big spiritual lessons, and you learn them this way. All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening, and discussion down below. Leave me any comments. Okay, thanks a lot, you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.